Radio.
Yeah, you
Exclusively
turned on our. And away we go on a Thursday. It's a Three Things Thursday with the Big 12 Championship just 2 days away. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Temkin. Great to have you with us on Big 12 Today. Here heard on Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and streaming on Big 12 Studios. You can find all of the platforms for Big 12 Studios at big12studios.com. We are presented by Modelo. We are loaded up today on a Thursday. Arizona football coach Brent Brennan joins the program in hour number 2. Plus, we're talking with the BYU play-by-play radio voice, Greg Wrubell, who always has great nuggets for us. And Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com gives us his insights into the change at coach at Kansas State. What's up, James? How are you?
Man, I'm settled. Finally, yesterday hit us like a ton of bricks with Chris Kleiman and it leaking that he was retiring, stepping away from K-State live on this program. So now we've had a full day to kind of digest the situation and that information. Love your shirt today. Cannot roast you. I touched your arm. It feels fantastic. Outstanding fabric. You look sharp. He's got the collar. He's got the buttons. He's ready to go.
Yeah, and you've got this weird hoodie on with like the side pockets. Normally a hoodie has like the pouch in the middle, but you've got like a zipper side pockets in that hoodie.
Yeah, it's very 2023. I think you'll like this. Last night, my wife and I had club-level tickets to the Dallas Mavericks game last night against the Miami Heat.
Club level.
Club level.
Meaning?
Section 218.
Okay, so
I think,
not on the 100 level, but you're between the 50s basically.
Yeah, really good seats.
So basically the way that like NBA games work is like the premium seating is between the end zones basically. And then like the regular people sit kind of on the sides.
Right. Well, I could tell you more about that experience if we actually had went.
But that would require you to leave your house and most notably be out past 10 o'clock. And those are two things that you're just not going to stand.
I want to make it very clear that this was not my call.
Okay.
Okay. I did not have any impact on this decision. But about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, decided to pivot. Ended up giving the tickets to my much younger cousin who's 27 and works like right across the street. So it was the perfect handoff. And instead we went to the grocery store.
Okay, so what's, if you don't mind me prying a little bit here, what was the
Right.
impetus for the decision to not go see the Mavs and the Heat, which is a good matchup? The Mavs won last night.
Yeah, a lot of factors went into it. Number one, we were tired. Number two, the amount of traffic that we'd have to navigate through to get there, how early we'd have to leave before the game actually started to make it to our seats, the parking situation down there. Will knows it can be super chaotic in that area.
All of these things were like, that's not new. Not like,
No, it's not new, but when you stack all of that on top of one another, it just felt like a lot for a weeknight. And so we thought, let's go to the grocery store.
yeah.
Not just any grocery store, the fancy grocery store, Central Market,
Oh.
which is big time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
A lot of artwork and scenery within the aisles. So that was our date night.
By the way,
last
thanks
night.
for offering the tickets to me. Very appreciative of that. Would have loved to go to the game last night.
Would you?
Yeah, in fact, you could have left Lacey at home. The boys could have gone to the game last night. That is a classic boys' night last night.
That did have boys' night written all over it.
All over it.
had-
James, we got to get you out of this line of thinking here where it's like teamwork
Well, here's
with
the
you and Lacey.
She was offered the tickets. I didn't feel like it was my
Oh,
place to
got
make the
it.
decisions.
Okay.
I wasn't offered the tickets. It was a family member of hers who drives in like 2 hours for every Mavs home game and wasn't going to make it last night. Yeah, that was new to me as well. And offered us the seats. And
so if that ever happens in the future, I'm your guy. But so what would have happened had you said, like, you know what, babe, you stay home. Let's make it a guy's night. Ari and I will go.
It would have been fine. Totally fine. Wouldn't have ruffled any feathers or been a thing at all.
Okay, give me like the true likelihood of you actually trying to ask that. Like, had you thought of that and then thought through what her response might have been?
Okay.
0% chance?
So
1%?
Had it been as last minute as our decision was to not go.
If she's like, you know what, there's a lot of things, blah, 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 and you're like, you know what, let me see if Ari wants to go.
Negative 30%. That's where I put that number. Negative 30% chance that happens. Now, if we plan it and I say, hey, babe, Ari and I are going to have a guys' night. We're going to the Mavs game. Giving her 48 to 72 hour notice.
48 to 72.
Totally, we're good. We're good. We're out and about.
24 hours, though, no chance.
24 hours? 24 hours, I'd probably put it 50-50. But day of, we made our decision 3.5 hours before tip-off. That ain't going to happen. That doesn't fly in the Wesleyan household.
When did you get the tickets?
We got the tickets on, I believe, Monday.
Okay.
Monday was the initial offer.
And so just so you know, let's just go through all this. All the options, all the reasons, the factors that went into you not going existed on Monday. Like, the game was still going to be a weeknight.
Yeah, we knew it was
still going to be traffic.
Yeah.
There were still going to be parking issues.
Yeah, we knew it would be a lot. So yesterday morning, I started texting my wife asking for updates in terms of the percentages of us actually going to the game. And they started at 68%.
On yesterday.
Yesterday.
So it was 100% on Monday.
100% on Monday.
100% on Tuesday.
Tuesday felt pretty strong. I'd put it at a good 90%.
90%. Okay.
Come Wednesday around noon, we're at 68%. By 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we're down to about 60%. And then she gets home from work, and we're at about 40%. And it's just all downhill from there.
Then she looks in the refrigerator and she's like, well, we need to go shopping.
We need to go to the store.
And that's one of those things, like, mentally, where you're thinking, like, you're giving yourself reasons not to go in that situation where
Totally.
Like, she was probably at a 20% on her way home from work. You're thinking, like, she's probably 50-50. She was probably at a 20.
Probably.
Yeah.
No, I don't think you're wrong. And then she said, I want to have a date night. Let's go to Central Market. That is a date night for us. But that's a great idea. Next time, and I still think we're in good standing with the guy that offered us the tickets, who's a uncle of hers. And again, they drive up like 2 hours to go to every game. So I'm sure there will be games in the future that they cannot make. And now the door has been cracked open.
Doors
for you
open.
And I to be at a Mavs game, section 218, platinum club level availability, whatever that means.
So yeah, I mean, just you always talk about you don't have any friends, you don't have a social life. I'm trying to engage with you in that. I'd love to hang out with you outside of this show.
I have 2 friends right here in this room.
No, and I appreciate that very much, and it's reciprocated. But like, let's take this to the next level. Let's get the thinking now.
Yeah.
Towards me, basically, is what I'm asking.
No, I like that, and I'm here for
things that are opportunities for me to have fun. Like, let's start thinking more about me.
I will say, working every weekend, basically 7 months out of the year, takes a toll on things that initially, when I got into this profession, never entered my mind.
Totally.
Your social life, friendships, times with family, times with your wife, like all of it.
Watching
it's
sports,
very much impacted.
Caring about sports.
Watching sports, doing things around the house. I'm like, when are all these people getting up in their gutters and getting the leaves out of there? Oh, they do it on weekends. Every weekend, people are out working on their home when I'm gone for 48 hours.
Oh, yeah, these things at the end of the week, they're called weekends. That's right. That's what people are.
When are people mowing their lawn? Oh, Saturdays and Sundays. Got it.
That's James Wesley on social at James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin on social at Ari Sports. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo on a 3 Things Thursday. The Big 12 championship game is sold out. It's on track to be the highest attended Big 12 title game ever. Should get over 90,000. At Jerry World, capacity is over 100,000, but that's with standing room only. So we'll see how many BYU and Tech fans they can jam into that place. But no surprises here. Arizona State and Iowa State, both have good fan bases that travel, but not at the level of Texas Tech and BYU, and especially given, DFW has the largest percentage of Texas Tech alums in the country. And then BYU fans travel. There's tons of BYU fans across the country and tons of them in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So no surprises there in terms of the game being sold out, but you should still check out SeatGeek.com from a secondary market perspective if you're still looking for tickets, because it's going to be a great game in front of an incredible environment. And if you haven't been to Jerry World, or it's been a long time since you've been at AT&T Stadium, there's nothing like I will say, of all of the professional football stadiums, the most collegial feeling you get from a professional football stadium is in Arlington at Jerry World. Like, I don't know what it is. They host a lot of college football games, including the Cotton Bowl. It's a great venue for college football, and I don't say that a lot for professional football stadiums.
Totally agree. And on Saturday, our listeners and our viewers need to be locked into the pregame show that you and Taylor McHargue are going to be a part of, watch the game, and then flip over to NBC Sports or Peacock and watch Florida State and Houston. The game I'm calling that night starts at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, I believe, on Saturday at the Toyota Center where the Rockets play. So I'm super bummed that I'm not going to be able to be at the Big 12 Championship game, but I cannot wait to watch you guys, you and Taylor. So many great interviews lined up for that pregame show. It's going to be awesome. It was an incredible environment last year. So last year's attendance for Iowa State and Arizona State, which, again, we were there, it felt super big, right? 55,900. 55,889 is the official number. With standing room only, there's going to be over 100,000 people at that game on Saturday at AT&T Stadium, nearly double the capacity in terms of the people that will be in that building from last year. When it felt big, it's going to be even bigger. And just to put that into perspective with some of the other leagues, like the SEC championship game is a near sellout or sellout every year, but because of the size of that stadium, last year it drew 78,000. So we're talking about 20,000 more people at this Texas Tech BYU game. It is going to be the ultimate stage for the Big 12, and if it's a close game, I think that's just one more layer to help the Big 12 get multiple bids in this year's field if BYU can hang or even win the game.
Yeah, it's a great point. On a Three Things Thursday, the early signing day was yesterday. If you remember, basically from the history of college football all the way to 2017, the signing day was the first Tuesday in February, and it was a national holiday. In 2017, though, for the 2018 class, that they changed it to have that early signing period so that players that wanted to sign could sign and get it over with. And now it's become kind of the signing day. You have, I think the first year was like 60%, then it was 70%. Now it's somewhere around 80 to 85% of blue chip prospects sign in that early signing period, and yesterday was no different. There were a ton of flips, but I think the big story is just how much we're seeing in terms of talent dispersal across the country. We have less of the power brokers that have, essentially hoarded all of the top blue chip talent are now ending up with less of that talent, and it's being dispersed more evenly across the country. In the Big 12, you had these numbers yesterday, James. How did it end up with, 3 in the top 20 for the Big 12?
So this year we have 2 in the top 20.
2 in the top 20.
Last year we had 2 in the top 35 of the national recruiting rankings, and it was TCU at number 24 and Kansas State at number 34. This year, Texas Tech checks in at number 19. BYU checks in at number 20 nationally. So we have 2 of the top 20 recruiting classes in this conference. And again, we've talked a lot on this program about baby stepping the Big 12's growth, right? And that starts with recruiting. The next step is to get multiple teams into the college football playoff, and kind of a 2B would be to win a game in the college football playoff. One or both of those things are still on the table for this season. Last year, you had 2 teams in the top 35, right? This year, we finished with 3 teams in the top 35 because Utah had some late flips yesterday, including a 5-star. They've got like 4 4-stars, and they finish in the top 30 at number 28. But then we've got 5 more schools in the top 40. So we end up
last year there were 2 in the top 35. There's 5 Big 12 schools now in the top 40.
6. 7, actually, because Utah had a huge jump. 7 Big 12 schools in the top 39, if we're going to be real specific. So we go 19-20 with Texas Tech and BYU, and then we go Utah at 28, and then The logjam between 36 and 39, Arizona, Houston, TCU, and Arizona State,
Wow.
36 through 39. The Big 12 had a really good day compared to the only data point that I think matters right now is what did you do in your conference the year before and the year before that? Because this is a new era of college football with the transfer portal and NIL and the House settlement, and the Big 12 very much had a massive uptick from 2024.
Wow. More on recruiting coming up in about 10 minutes from now. But on a Three Things Thursday, the third thing is Chris Klieman officially stepping down at K-State. The news started to come out about 24 hours ago, and you and I were frantically during breaks during yesterday's show trying to verify and figure out if this was a real report that came from the Manhattan Mercury, the newspaper of record in the city of Manhattan, Kansas, and that is official now. Chris Klieman stepping down at K-State. Now, the initial report indicated that Colin Klein, the legendary quarterback at K-State, would become the new head coach, but so far that has not been named official. Now, again, I'd be shocked if that didn't end up happening, but it's not official yet.
Yeah, he was lined up to be the next coach at USF. South Florida wanted Colin Klein. They have made their hire because it looks like Colin Klein is headed to K-State. And my 30 seconds on Chris Klieman and him stepping away. Like, think about how rare is this? And I compared it to Nick Saban walking away from Alabama because of the college football era that we're in. You know, most people stay in a job long after the mission drifts. And the mission is this current era of college football. The money's good for Chris Klieman. The office is big for Chris Klieman. Like, why rock the boat, right? And he did the opposite. Like, he's stepping away because he's not fully aligned with where college football is headed. And I think it takes a lot to know that Kansas State needs a coach who is all in and came up with this new model and is a younger guy. Like, that's not quitting. I look at it as true leadership from Chris Klieman. Love the tribute video that K-State put together. It is something that we just don't see very much in college football.
Well said, and I'll give you credit. Yesterday, this is pretty much what you said would be one of the main factors for Klieman to step aside. I mentioned, is it Colin Klein and having this alum who's highly sought after and an opportunity to bring him in? Was it what's happening behind the scenes? Maybe, again, I don't want to speculate, but he mentioned at the end of the year, last year, how difficult the season was based on some things going on behind the scenes. And you wonder the same thing about this year. But you said it point blank. Maybe he was fed up with the state of college athletics. And here's what Gene Taylor said, the athletic director at K-State, yesterday during this press conference, point blank about this.
Thing under control. We have to sign these participation agreements, every school in the country. We have to come together and run the business as equally as we possibly can, and right now that's not the case. And people are ignoring the settlement. They're doing things that are outside of the settlement, outside of the agreement, and we need to get it under control. If we don't, more good people like Chris Klieman are going to leave this business.
I mean, we're starting to see it in football, what we saw in men's basketball. Roy Williams stepping away, Coach K retiring maybe a little bit prematurely, Jay Wright stepping away at Villanova at the pinnacle of his career, Tony Bennett abruptly retiring just before the season, Bruce Pearl this past offseason. There's a long list of college basketball coaches who have stepped away because they don't like and have frustrations with the college sports landscape and the NIL and the roster churn year after year. And Chris Klieman, in my eyes, is the second to do it because I think Nick Saban was the first to step away because of all the extra stuff outside of just coaching football. And his comments recently after games, especially after the Colorado game, which apparently he told Deion Sanders at the post-game handshake that he had just coached his last game at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. I think all of that is I do think all things can be true, right? A little bit on the hot seat, up-and-comer, waiting in the wings potentially in Colin Klein, who's thriving at Texas A&M. But ultimately, I do think it was the NIL piece, and I think Gene Taylor hit the nail on the head with the direction that it's going to continue to go if things don't continue to change.
Yeah, I mean, but the issue with Gene's comments as they are is at this point, like, there's really been nothing substantial that's made its way through in terms of other than the House settlement itself. But I mean, you had you've had 6 years of lobbying by the NCAA and these conferences, millions of dollars spent, and now 2 bills that have been presented are 0-2. You've got schools that refuse to sign this CSC enforcement document. So, Gene Taylor's comments are all well and good, but it's obvious that at this point, the House settlement is not even worth the paper that it's written on in terms of enforcement and reining in the dollars spent on college athletics. And quite frankly, you could argue, I'd argue that I'm fine with that. I think, this is a capitalist endeavor, and, certainly, you've got to not just spend money, and it's not just about spending all the money, but it's about how you appropriate those dollars and the types of players you spend it on. I think TCU, Texas Tech, and BYU are a great example of that. On the other side of this, aside from that piece, what Chris Kleiman did in 7 years as the head coach at K-State is pretty remarkable, especially replacing Bill Snyder. It's super tough to replace a legend, and he did it as well as he could, winning a Big 12 championship. He went 54-34, 6 bowl appearances, the Big 12 championship in 2022, and then of course what he did at North Dakota State, which was one unprecedented, winning four FCS national titles in 5 seasons, and went 69-6 as the head coach. Here's what Kleiman said yesterday during his press conference.
Leadership to me is how many people you can impact on a daily basis and make sure that's a different person every day. And as I retire after close to 35 years in this business, I've already visited with our players, but I'm one of the lucky ones.
Man, what an incredible human, because he's genuine, he cares about his players, and I'm glad you noted all the success that he had at North Dakota State, because I do think that matters. And again, he's a guy that could have continued to earn a paycheck. He earned around $26 million at Kansas State, and that doesn't include what he made at North Dakota State. So he probably made about $40 million over the course of his career, are the estimates that I could find. And what he did at Kansas State is more than just the setup guy for Colin Klein, if this works out the way that K-State fans envision. And it doesn't always go that way. So we might look back at Chris Kleiman's tenure in a very different light 3, 4, 5 years from now. But right now, as we sit here today, to take K-State to 5 bowl games, and you have to remember that he took over after Bill Snyder went 5-7. Bill Snyder's last year, all the great teams that he had in his second tenure at Kansas State, his last season, they missed a bowl. They went 5-7. Kleiman walks in, they win 8 games right away, and had that breakthrough 10-win season in 2022, winning the conference championship. That's hard to do. That's really difficult to do at a school like Kansas State.
Yeah, Texas Tech has been in the Big 12 as long as they have. They've never won a Big 12 championship. They're about to attempt to on Saturday. All right, James Westling, Ari Temkin, so much to get to. We'll break down the Big 12 championship coming up, plus Greg Wrubell, voice of BYU, will join us. On the way next, though, let's dig into signing day and some of the biggest storylines, including who's Houston's starting quarterback next year. It's all coming up next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. And I don't know if you saw this. We'll get into signing day here in a moment. James Wesley, Ari Temkin. Iowa State beat Alcorn State last night, 132-68. Iowa State went 22 of 30 from three. They set a Big 12 record with 22 made threes out of 30. They shot 73% from three. I don't care who you're playing. I mean, you could try to shoot 33s against air and not make 73% of them. That's ridiculous.
And I think Iowa State is very much being overlooked in the Big 12. They're 7-0. They went 3-0 at the Players era.
8-0 now.
8-0 now. Thank you. And with Joshua Jefferson, Milan Momcilovic, Taman Lipsey, all core guys that were there last year, they are shooting the cover off the ball. All three of those guys are averaging over 17 points per game. Did Taman Lipsey play last night? I know he got a little bit beat up the last time out, so I have concerns about his health. But, man, they look.
Yeah, no Lipsey last night.
And they scored 130-some points without him?
132. 22 of 30 from three.
Nutty.
By the way, they get Purdue on Saturday. Top-ranked Purdue on Saturday. So we'll see how that goes. And I think Lipsey's going to be out for a bit here. So imagine they're not going to have him for that Purdue game.
But, like, they beat Creighton by 20. They beat Syracuse by 31. Like, they're not beating teams like Alcorn State and Grambling and Fairleigh Dickinson, the other non-power school teams that they've played on their schedule. Like, those are the outliers. They're also beating teams like Mississippi State by 16. And then the schools I just mentioned. They beat St. John's. Yeah. They're for real.
Yeah. James Wesley, Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, gearing up for the Big 12 Championship game, which you can catch as a part of TuneIn's Game of the Week. If you have not yet already, make sure to download the TuneIn app and then search Big 12 and favorite the channel. That way it shows up each and every time you open up the app. And on Saturday, you can catch the pregame show with myself and Taylor McHargue. We're going to have Kalani Sitake. We're going to have Joey McGuire both joining us. We're trying to get Cody Campbell on as well. Should be a lot of fun. We're on 9 to 11 Central as a pregame show, live from the field at AT&T Stadium on Saturday. And then, of course, the game you can catch on TuneIn as a part of Big 12 Radio, our Game of the Week. And we are presented by Modelo. Okay, yesterday was signing day, the early signing period, but we might as well just refer to it now as the signing period because the majority of recruits are signing. And, well, the results are very good. So with Texas and OU in the Big 12, you could always count on those to be top 10 Big 12 programs in recruiting. Last year was a major step back in terms of recruiting for the conference. 2026 is a huge step forward now, James, because you mentioned it last segment. I mean, with two teams in the top 40, we'll call it last year, the Big 12 has 7 in the top 40 this year, including 2 highly ranked programs in Texas Tech and BYU. Plus, West Virginia went ham. They got 2 major flips, including a 4-star running back, and ended up signing 45 players in their class for 2026.
And actually, it's 8 schools in the top 39.
Okay.
Because I totally missed West Virginia, who now has a top 25 class. As we sat here this time yesterday, they had 39 commitments. They flipped to 40th while we were on the air yesterday morning. They end up with 45. So Rich Rod's not messing around. He's completely overhauling that roster. They flipped a 4-star safety who's a top 3 safety prospect in the country. And for them to put together a top 25 class after the season that they had tells me that whatever Rich Rod is selling, recruits are buying. And I say that not literally. It's much more than just the NIL offers that West Virginia can put on the table, which is really exciting for West Virginia. They got that win over Pitt this season. They have a lot of really young players that saw significant snaps this season. So I feel really good about their class. And then even these teams that are kind of log-jammed between like 28 and 39, when you look at their body of work, a lot of them high 3 stars, but then also at the top. Like, this is a conference that has never seen this many 5-star recruits land in this league post-Texas and OU, who are always towards the top in the recruiting rankings. So I think collectively The league could not have had a better signing day yesterday. And to see all the flips, a lot of them within the Big 12, but also from other conferences to Big 12 schools, I think was really exciting for the league.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe most notable is, so the SEC landed 6 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the 2026 class, but the Big 12 took 2, while the ACC and the Big 10 settled for 1 apiece. That's huge. I mean, we know about Keyshawn Henderson, the number 1 player in the 2026 class, has long been committed to Houston, and he made it official, signing on the dotted line for the Houston Cougars. And here's what Willie Fritz – no, here's not what Willie Fritz. Here is what Willie Fritz – thank you, Will. Here's what Willie Fritz had to say about landing Keyshawn Henderson, a guy that played for Michael Bishop, who, of course, played at Blinn Junior College for Willie Fritz, and then went on to K-State to play under Bill Snyder and become an incredible record-setting quarterback for the K-State Wildcats. Here's what Willie Fritz said about signing Henderson.
You know, he's the number 1 overall recruit in one publication. He's the number 1 quarterback in, I think, almost all the publications. He, a lot of people, very, very interested in him. We were really one of the first schools that offered him, a year ago last summer. We just, looked at his film and identified him as a quarterback, and we're so excited to have Keyshawn and his family join us. Great young man, represents all the things that we want in a student athlete here at the University of Houston. And something else too, I believe out of these 17 guys, I think 13 of them are going to be coming in early. They're graduating early, and we'll be here at the University of Houston in January with Keyshawn being one of those guys. So we're very, very proud of the fact that, we had him, for a long period of time, stayed loyal to us. And we're just excited. I think he's a big time football player.
All right, there's Willie Fritz talking about Keyshawn Henderson, the number 1 player in the 2026 class, the quarterback who signs with Houston. So who's starting at quarterback next year for the Houston Cougars, James?
Connor Wegman. I think this sets up beautifully for Houston and their future, because Connor Wegman is a junior. He has 1 more year of eligibility. He can play next year. And true freshman quarterbacks don't typically see the field and have success right away as true freshmen. Redshirt freshmen, yes. And I do think Keyshawn Henderson will.
Bear Bachmeyer would like a word with you.
Bear Bachmeyer, he's very rare. He's very rare. You look at, there have been guys as true freshmen who have had tremendous success, like a Bear Bachmeyer.
I mean, it's more common in the modern era. I mean, there was a point in time where it never happened.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, 2018 in Clemson, won a national championship, but he didn't take over as the full-time starter until week 5. Caleb Williams, his freshman year at Oklahoma, he took over for Spencer Rattler mid-season.
Right.
And then Jameis Winston and Johnny Manziel and all these incredible freshman campaigns that we all remember in college football history, those guys were redshirt freshmen. So I think Keyshawn Henderson gets on the field and plays his 4 games and maybe even burns his red shirt if they want to use him week in and week out, because he's so versatile. You can play him at multiple positions. You can put him on the field with Connor Wegman. I could see some kind of gimmicky packages where they're both on the field next year. But I think Connor Wegman's the guy. He was too good this year for next season to take that job away from him. Now, he's also a guy that hasn't played an entire season fully healthy. Even this year, he missed time. Now, he started every game, but Zeon Chriss came in and played, 3.5 quarters against somebody like mid-year when he got knocked out. That will be Henderson next year. So I think he gets some reps, and then he's your guy 2 years from now.
The one thing I'll say just holistically, big picture on recruiting is, it's funny how under the radar the early signing day is, because it continues to be the lifeblood of national championship teams. We talk a lot of the show about the blue chip ratio. And look, I mean, I'd love to see Texas Tech go win a national championship this year and prove the blue chip ratio inaccurate. There might be a team that eventually does it. Indiana's another team that could potentially do that this year. We'll see. But until proven otherwise, you have to stack 5- and 4-star talent on top of 5- and 4-star talent. And so, I mean, teams that are going to win a national championship in 2028, 2029 signed players yesterday. Yesterday was the biggest day 4 teams that are going to win national championships in 2028 and 2029. Now, it's important to, also include that, the transfer portal matters. I think people probably put way too much stock in the portal right now in terms of building championship rosters. And, one of those things we've talked about with the transfer portal is with Max Olson from ESPN wrote about it heading into this season, the importance of experienced players, guys that are transfers that have played a lot of snaps. So there's multiple types of players you can add to the portal. There's the guys that maybe were a 5 or a 4-star that haven't seen the field as much, that have a ton of potential and talent but haven't seen the field as much. And then there's the other side of guys that maybe were under-recruited and have now outperformed that based on where they were at a lesser school. And basically what Max Olson wrote about is those guys that have played a lot of snaps, there's a reason that they played a lot of snaps. They've stayed healthy, they've produced, and those are the guys that end up becoming the best players you can sign in the portal. Funny, right? Weird. Yeah, guys that play end up becoming better players. But when you look and go back at the preseason programs that brought in the most experienced players through the portal, West Virginia was number 1, but they added 51 transfers. Mm-hmm. Okay, Arizona was number 4 in terms of adding experience, and they added 27. Houston added 28, number 6. Texas Tech added 22, 13th. So there are a lot of Big 12 schools on this list in terms of adding experienced transfers, but I think there's probably a sweet spot in terms of, recruiting and then adding experienced transfers. Indiana's also on this list, adding 23, so probably somewhere in that, 19 to 25 range, adding those players that could really become glue and bolster your roster. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the teams Arizona, Houston, Texas Tech have had some of the most success in this conference this season.
Totally agree. It's the perfect blend. And West Virginia, it makes sense that they added a bunch of experience because they had to. They lost their entire roster with a coaching change. Houston, Arizona, those are 2 teams who had year 2 head coaches who found this blend of player retention from the previous staff, recruiting the high school level, and then experience in the portal. And it worked out beautifully. Now, with the blue chip ratio, let's go back to, because there's 2 sides of it. Yes, historically, you hit that blue chip ratio to compete for a national championship. But there's also teams that have hit that blue chip ratio that aren't in the college football playoff this year. Let's go back to the 2022 recruiting rankings, right? National Signing Day 2022, high school recruits only. And you'll see that from the top 10, some of these teams are in a really good position, others aren't. The number 1 recruiting class in 2022 was Texas A&M, who's had a breakthrough year this year because a lot of guys on that roster, albeit they were recruited by Jimbo Fisher, are now juniors and seniors. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas round out the top 5. Well, Texas isn't going to make the college football playoff. And then 6 through 10 gets really interesting. The number 6 recruiting class in 2022 was Penn State. Look where they are today. Number 7 was Notre Dame. Number 8 was Oklahoma. Number 9 was Michigan. They're not going to be in the playoff. And number 10 was Clemson. They're not going to be in the playoff and have had a rough year. Number 11, by the way, was North Carolina. So hitting the blue chip ratio is super important to win a national championship, but also I think there are programs that Big 12 schools can leapfrog without hitting the blue chip ratio, like a BYU and a Texas Tech and maybe some of these others.
And the biggest piece of that is just recruiting the right kind of players.
Yep.
And every school, it's different what those RKGs are, the right kind of guys.
Yeah.
And so fit is as important as talent. And that's where I think people are totally missing the boat on both Texas Tech and BYU in terms of roster construction, because fit is a big reason why their rosters have worked out more so just than talent. All right, we'll have more to come on signing day and some of the winners and losers out of the Big 12, including, holy heck, what happened to Baylor, and how about Oklahoma State kind of piecemealing a pretty decent class despite having a coach that started last week and is still coaching his team. All of that on the way. Coming up next, though, Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire has a plan to fix college football. Not just complaining, because that's what a lot of coaches are, just complaining, but Joey's got a plan. We'll get into that next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Radio, this is Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios with James Westling on social at James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin on social at Ari Sports. We are presented by Modelo. So much to get to here on this Three Things Thursday. And we've got Brent Brennan, the Arizona football coach, coming up in the next hour. Plus, we're talking with Tim Fitzgerald, our buddy from GoPowerCat.com, about Chris Kleiman and what's next for K-State in terms of their football program. But this time of year, you hear a lot of complaining from coaches, from administrators. We know there's a lot that's a mess. More to the point, though, I mean, a lot that's changed in the last 5 years in college football that remained unchanged for 100 years. And so that has ruffled a lot of feathers. And so you hear the same people, Scott Frost, Gene Taylor, complaining about the same things without much in terms of offering opportunities to figure out how to fix it. Hunter Yurachek's another one of those, right? Like, just complain. How are you fixing it? And what are you doing? And by the way, it might be not a perfect system, but it's a better system than it used to be. And you might not think that, but that's because you benefited greatly from it in a way that the kids didn't. That's just the bottom line. You had a labor force that was cyclical, and you didn't have to pay them anything beyond the compensation of a college degree, which is, I'm not trying to downplay, but that never changed in 100 years. So, like, the value of a college degree has remained at what level versus the billions and billions of dollars in college football? But I digress. Joey McGuire, the head football coach at Texas Tech, is not just one to complain. He's one to offer solutions. And I think, if I'm being honest, I think the biggest issue right now in college football is not NIL. It's not the transfer portal. It's the calendar. I think it is the calendar. I agree. It is the calendar. It creates a lot of issues. What we just saw with Lane Kiffin, what we're seeing with coaches in terms of hiring and firing, how quickly programs feel like they need to hire coaches with the early signing period. It's a mess. And it sort of is like this weird puzzle that, like, when the puzzle was made, the puzzle pieces fit together. But the problem is the person who tried to put the puzzle together initially didn't put it together properly. And instead of trying to unravel those pieces that didn't fit together, they cut the pieces in order to make them fit. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's almost like you had a puzzle, it fit, but the person who put it together didn't make it fit properly, and so they just adjusted the pieces in order to make it fit.
Right.
As opposed to redoing the puzzle. And so Joey McGuire, Texas Tech's head football coach, has a way to redo the puzzle. Take a listen.
I don't want the portal in the spring. I want to know what my team is in January so I can create my team and what we did this last year and the chemistry and everything. And so you're just putting a Band-Aid over the problem until we address the calendar. So in my opinion, we all should have played August 23rd. So instead of week 0, we play, that's week 1. That would mean with the buys and everything, the conference championship would have been played over Thanksgiving. So you get that out of the way. So now we know who's in the playoffs. So if you were saying the first round was going to be played Saturday and then the quarterfinals 7 days after that, semifinals 7 days after that, you actually could play the national championship on January 1st. And then the portal would open on January 2nd. So the season would actually be over. So until you do that, we're still going to have this. If we're going to be like the NFL, to where everybody's saying that, in the NFL there's a tampering for coaches also, and there's a penalty. And so, hey, if you're going to leave your team that's in the playoffs, maybe your team that you're going to is not eligible for the playoffs the next year. Maybe that changes some of the things. Or, hey, you're going to leave your team for the playoffs. Nobody from your past team or your team that you're coaching at can go to the team that you're going to. You know, that they're not eligible. They can get in the transfer portal, but they've got to go somewhere else. They can't follow you. Until there's some penalties in that, we're going to get the same thing over and over. I do think the biggest thing that we have to address, and TV's got to get behind this because they've already got this mapped out with the quarterfinals and all this stuff, we've got to push the calendar up, and we've got to get football out of the second semester. We're not supposed to be playing college football on January 19th. That should be over at the very worst of where it has been in the past. I still think that's too late, and the calendar can change that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll go back to James. the bigger issue, more than anything, if you want to complain about NIL, the transfer portal, sure. I mean, join the cacophony in the echo chamber that's complaining about it and doing nothing. I think the bigger issue is exactly what Joey McGuire has zeroed in on, which is if you want to fix college football, you got to start with the calendar.
Yep. College football used to wrap on New Year's Day. If you made a New Year's Day bowl, that was a big deal because that was it. January 1st. The season was over. The national championship game is going to be on January 19th. I mean, we've expanded and extended the season a full 3 weeks from what it used to be. That's a big difference. And his idea of having conference championship games Thanksgiving weekend, or maybe we just eliminate conference championship games because there's already been a push for that if we're going to expand the college football playoff. We don't need conference championship games. So you could still have all your big rivalries, your Egg Bowl, your Michigan, Ohio State, the Big 12 rivalries that we have right here in this conference. You could still have those games Thanksgiving weekend, and that could be it. And then you go into the college football playoff and you get the whole thing wrapped up by January 1. The portal opens January 2nd. I love the idea because this is the only sport where the calendar has this log jam where you have recruiting, games actually being played on the field, coaching moves,
The portal
activity,
Right.
all happening at the same time. There's so much overlap. There's so many distractions this time of year. College basketball has the Final Four, the national championship, and then the portal opens. Coaches leave. Coaches move on. Players transfer to different schools. And by the end of May, into the summer, you know what your roster looks like for basketball. The NFL, which is the example he used, you have the playoffs, you have the Super Bowl, and then you have the draft and free agency and then training camp and the season. It's bang, 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 bang. College football doesn't have any of that. Reducing the transfer portal window to where it is, I think, is a step in the right direction. This is the next major step forward for college football. I love his idea. I love that he came up with the solution, and now let's go make it happen.
So here's a few things on it because, number one, you're not going to get rid of conference championship games. I mean, especially because of the SEC and the Big Ten. There's just no – it's a cash cow for them. There's just no chance. It's just not going to happen. Unless there's expansion of the playoff, which at this point it's at an impasse.
Right.
So you're just not going to get rid of the conference championship games. I also wonder if you could get everybody to accept starting the season week 0 as opposed to, starting the season a week later. I think now the official week 1 is a week before the NFL starts. Mm-hmm. What Joey McGuire is saying, if you push it earlier, then everything else gets pushed earlier, which means you don't have to play the championship game on January 19th.
But
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, same. You have 2 weeks of the college football season to really ramp up before the NFL kicks in. I would think that would be a major advantage for college football.
Yep.
People are going to watch week 0 and week 1, the first 2 weeks of the college football season, over the NFL preseason any day.
And remember, the
you
NFL
have
season
even more
goes,
momentum.
The Super Bowl's in February, right? So, they're going way beyond what college football does. There's no reason why you can't start much earlier because then you get those windows. The other thing that he said that I completely agree with is the spring portal window. I get the rationale behind it, but it creates a lot of dysfunction. And I completely agree with what he said. Let's get this thing in January. That way you're trying to get everybody in tow for spring football where you're building your team. I mean, that's essentially minicamp. When you look at the NFL, and again, there's important distinction between the NFL and college football, but I think the NFL. Let me start over. On Thanksgiving, 57 million people watched the Cowboys and the Chiefs. It is a ridiculous number, okay? It is the highest rated NFL game ever, okay? 57 million people. I would argue that the popularity of the NFL is tied into their calendar because of the way their calendar is set up. One team wins the Super Bowl, but 31 teams can win the offseason. And so you have the Super Bowl, then the Super Bowl happens, then you have the NFL Combine 2 weeks later. Okay, so you're building your championship roster literally right after the Super Bowl Super Bowl happens. So you have the Combine, then you have free agency that opens, then you have the draft, then the schedule release. So it's then you have minicamp, training camp, season starts. That's it. So the reason it all makes sense, the puzzle fits for the NFL. And they sell optimism in the offseason, you're building your roster, but there's all these different periods for where you're doing that. Now free agents can sign across the entire season, but the majority of free agents are signing during that free agency period before the draft. Because why? Well, because when I get to the draft, I need to know what spots I've fortified through the offseason. So everything makes sense. The puzzle pieces fit. College football is like all over the place.
Yep.
Think about the puzzle again.
Yep.
It's nonsensical. The draft is signing day. Free agency is the portal. You flip-flop the two of them.
Yeah. You have the draft first, and then you have the portal, and then this spring window, which, again, I agree with Joey McGuire, needs to be eliminated in its entirety. It's been condensed. It's been shortened. It's going to be 15 days now from April 15th to April 30th, but a lot can happen in 2 weeks. Players who lose the spring position battles can leave. You have staff changes, maybe potentially after spring ball. You're trying to build your roster super late in the process. And even to hear Joey McGuire say it says a lot, because Texas Tech benefited greatly from the spring portal window this past season. That's when they got David Bailey. That's when they got a couple other guys late in the process that have really helped their roster, including Quentin Joyner, the running back. Even though we didn't see him on the field this year, he was a late addition for them. They picked up an offensive lineman in the portal in the spring. And to hear him say, hey, it's still a problem, says a lot. And we also kind of have, after the conference championship games this weekend, almost in my eyes in college football, kind of a dead period between the conference championship games and the bowl games, where you lose some of that momentum. Let's keep the momentum rolling and get this calendar shaped up to where it does make sense and it's stacked one thing after another instead of all of it simultaneously where it's hard to follow. It's got to be uber confusing for fans of the sport in general and a nightmare for college football coaches.
That's James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. On the way next, we talk with our buddy Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com about Chris Kleiman and Colin Klein and everything else K-State football. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Temkin. Big 12 Today presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Well, about 24 hours ago, both James and I were scrambling to figure out if this report from the Manhattan Mercury was in fact true, that Chris Kleiman was in fact stepping down as the head football coach at K-State. And we have found in the last 24 hours that is in fact true. Joining us now to talk about it is Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. Fitzy, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm good. I've done 31 signing days at Kansas State now. 31 years. And that one was truly unique. That was the strangest day in terms of signing days I've ever been through.
Just expand on that a little bit. I mean, it's obvious why, but I'm just curious for kind of your thoughts in the moment as somebody that covers this team and has for the 3 decades, as you said.
Well, I mean, before the early signing period, having a coaching change on signing day would have been unthinkable. I mean, it just right. How do you do that? But now with the portal, I think all the players signing were like, we'll figure it out, you know. But I think the fact that they were hiring such a known commodity, even though they're trying to deny it, we know what they're doing. I think was comforting. I mean, even if you weren't around when Colin was around at K-State, if you're newer to the program, I mean, he's the offensive coordinator at one of the top teams in the country. You probably know who he is anyhow. And so I think there's a great deal of comfort in the building about what's going on and the result and the goodness of Colin Klein. And no one's going to worry about him being unfair or anything like that. He's a solid human being, to say the least. But it was a bizarre day. I mean, and then the press conference, you have the recruiting guy, Taylor Bradd, who hit it out of the park, do the actual recruiting thing instead of Chris Kleiman, because he's not going to be their coach. And then you move into this weird, Chris Kleiman makes a statement but doesn't take questions, and then Gene Taylor, the AD, takes all the questions. It was bizarre. It was like someone slipped me LSD on signing day, Ari. I'm just going to say it. It was so weird.
What's happening? Like, normally I'm used to like hearing and talking about the players, and now there's a new coach and he's stepping aside. Yeah. It's bizarre, and like pretty good tenure at that with Chris Kleiman. Not like there was obviously rumblings about, is the program taking a turn, and the end of last season and a disappointing season this year. But I mean, I don't think anybody was under the impression that Kleiman was, still not the right guy for the job.
Yeah, I mean, I think it became very clear to Chris Kleiman he wasn't the right guy for the job because he hates what's happened to college football.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you truly hate something, you can try to deal with it, adjust to it, but you never do because you just it's unfathomable what's happening. So I think he got to the end of the season. I truly believe Utah, his breakdown, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the Utah game was the turning point. And I think he finally got to the end of the season and said, yeah, why am I still doing this? I hate it. I hate this job now. And I think he realized, I just got to go. I got to go. I got to get out of there. And luckily, they've got someone sitting out there who is available and a perfect candidate for the job. And I think it's all going to fall in place. I think it's going to be sooner rather than later when we get all this information.
Yeah, Tim, in terms of on a scale of 0 to 100, what was your shock factor with this announcement? And how long do you think that, you mentioned that after the Utah game, you think that's kind of when it began. Is that right? Or how long do you think that Chris Kleiman's been considering this?
I know for a fact he was not considering stepping away prior to that because I spoke to him about it. Okay. And look, he was pretty clear. He was like, I've got at least one more in me, and I'm gonna get this program, back to where it needs to be. But eventually, I think he said, this isn't good for my health, mental or physical. I got to go. And good for him. Good for having the self-realization that it was time, even though sticking it out and getting fired would be much better financially. That shows what an honorable man he is.
Great point.
And he, this was awkward, but I think it's all going to work out fine. But what's the strangest thing about the story, fellas, is we've all been around that rumor that starts spreading, that
Right.
so-and-so is going to do something. And then 6 hours later, it's morphed into alien invasion or something just so outlandish that you're like, this isn't true. This rumor, it started off, the first version I heard was Gene Taylor was retiring, the AD. And I'm like, okay. And then pretty soon it was, he's retiring, but he's hiring Colin Klein. And as we got further down the road, the damn rumor got more accurate. And by the time I'd gone to bed, I knew exactly what the Manhattan Mercury had reported, just not enough to kind of run with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was kind of all telephone. I talked to someone, that had talked to Colin type thing. I didn't have any direct sources, but everything I was told was 100% what they reported. And so I think they were given that information by someone in the know. So good for them. And that was something I couldn't get anyone to do.
So, you mentioned Colin a couple of times. I think it's obvious. He's a legend at K-State. It's clear that their offense took a turn when he left, and A&M's offense looks spectacular. It's not a coincidence here. Obviously,
Yeah.
Gene Taylor downplayed Colin Klein as much as he could during the presser yesterday. But how confident are you that Colin Klein will become the next head football coach at K-State?
100% minus 0.000. I think it's done. Not done as in signed, but I think they know exactly what they're doing. It came together. Colin wants to be here. The people here want him there. I think, I just think it's all already been kind of snapped into place, and Colin's out there, biding his time for theater. Basically, I think yesterday was about having Chris Kleiman have his moment. And, it's supposed to be the players' moment. That all got uprooted by the early report. It wasn't like they were trying to hold back the information so that players would sign. They knew players were going to sign. They were holding back the information to try to have the players have a day, Kleiman have a day. Here's Colin Klein, another day.
Great point.
And that just didn't work out. Didn't work out at all. The players got upstaged, but I think they did a good job. Gene Taylor made sure he made this about Chris Kleiman and didn't spend time talking about Colin Klein by saying he hadn't even contacted him.
Tim, speaking of the players, talking with Tim Fitzgerald from Go Power Cat on 24/7 Sports, gopowercat.com. Tim, speaking of the players, a couple questions about that. Number one, in terms of retaining a lot of key guys that still have eligibility left, any feel there? And then also, is K-State going to play in their bowl game, or are they going to pass?
I think they'll play. I don't see any way that the players will vote no.
Okay.
Maybe they will, but I think they'll play. I think that was just Gene Taylor leaving all the possibilities open. That hey, they've got, if they don't want to play, they don't have to. I have a feeling they will. They better figure that out pretty soon.
Right.
And you're going to be invited here. You got to decide if you want to go to the party or not. It's going to be interesting, but I think they will. I think I think Chris Kleiman will coach that. I'm not sure. He mentioned he was taking the rest of the week off and getting out of town with his wife Rhonda. And I'm not sure what the future holds. He may not want to come back to coach, to be honest. I saw a guy yesterday that looked like a burden had been lifted off his shoulders. He had a little bit more air to him, a little lighter. And I haven't seen that version of him in a few years. So I actually would probably encourage him not to coach the game and let Van Malone, take over or something like that, because I think he came to realization that for his mental and physical health, he had to step away. So ducking back in for a bowl game just doesn't seem like a good plan. But we'll see how it plays out. It's a lot of things got to take place in a short amount of days here.
Yeah, talking to Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com. So the elephant in the room here is sort of the Gene Taylor, Chris Kleiman, budgetary NIL piece. Gene continues to complain about the state of NIL. We know that this is a big reason why Kleiman has stepped aside. That's not changing here, right? So give us a sense of what that looks like and how much will Colin Klein be able to change that dynamic, or will he?
Well, it's interesting because we've heard reports that, some of the bigger donors who haven't been engaged with football NIL are ready to come back in. And that's the power of Colin Klein. He's a guy that is completely likable. I have never met anyone who doesn't like Colin Klein. He might be too clean cut for some people, but he is 100% authentic. And I think everything will work out fine in the end. It's just a really awkward process right now. It almost feels like the wife is moving out, but the girlfriend's got her U-Haul in the front yard ready to move stuff in. Not like I know what that would be like, because I'm very scared of my wife. But it feels kind of the same. Like, well, you got to get out of here. The new hot chick's out in the front yard. You got to move on. It's just really an odd situation.
Yeah, well said.
Tim, any sense of how the players feel about this? Austin Romaine is the guy that'll have eligibility. Obviously, Avery Johnson will have eligibility left. I mean, what's your sense there?
Well, I think the fact that their quarterback, first learned under Colin and really likes Colin, as far as we know, I think that probably settles the room a little bit. With anyone who was around Colin is telling the other guys, oh, this dude's legit. He knows what he's doing. He's a good person. So yeah, I think it's probably a really strange, calm transition, because look, if you're a player on this team, you saw Chris Kleiman every day. You saw that heaviness that he was carrying around. And if you'd been here for a few years, you saw the change in him. Not like some, like he turned grumpy and really, he was still Chris Kleiman. He was just kind of weighed down. And, I kind of feel like the thing that happened at Utah, the breakdown in the postgame, had been brewing for, better part of a year and a half, since the middle of last season when the team kind of came apart. I feel like it's just been underneath the surface and it came out. And I think everyone around him could feel that too.
Yeah, well said. Real quick, want to ask you about basketball before I let you go. Tim Fitzgerald,
yeah.
Parkat.com.
Is crying allowed on the show?
Losing to Bowling Green at home. How bad of a loss was that? And then did you also find it odd that, at least the quote that I heard, and you can help provide some context, that Gene Taylor kind of referenced Jerome Tang is like, look at how successful coaches that don't have experience being head coaches can be?
Yeah. I think Gene was just putting words together yesterday at times to
Got it. Yep.
to get through the press conference. That was an interesting one, but they had looked.
I mean, the guy that just lost to Bowling Green at home?
I know. They looked so good, and now it looked like a media team was playing Bowling Green. Like, I'm out there standing at mid-court trying to take shots because I don't want to run in either direction. It was awful. And this team can score.
Right.
This team is so good offensively, and it looks like they're getting that coached out of them. And I don't know what's going on. They better figure it out. Seton Hall's going to hurt their feelings on Saturday in Bramlage if they don't figure this out real quick.
What do they need to figure out? What's the biggest issue?
they don't know how to play defense, James.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It is the damnedest thing I've ever seen. They they can't even switch. It's like they switch and one of the guys is like, oh, this guy? I'm supposed to do this guy? Oh, he just scored. It's painful to watch a team that has such good athletes, such good scores, and good young men. This team's really kind of fun to be around because they got a little bit they're a little bit lighter as we stay on a theme here. But yeah, that was awful. That was I don't want to see that again. It's kind of like when I get out of the shower and catch a look at myself in the mirror. I don't want that. Nobody wants to see that. So yeah, it was not good.
Yeah, well said. Well, and my team is the exact opposite issue. They can defend, they can't score. But they could certainly use Darren Peterson coming back, but I digress. Tim, you're the best, buddy.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's all right. I've covered a team that can't score and play defense. This one's more fun.
Yeah.
At least losing and not making the offensive end of the floor look like dental work.
Right.
Is a more enjoyable product. But Bowling Green? They're not even green. All right. Jeez. Thanks, boys.
Appreciate you, brother. Be well. Take care.
You bet. Okay.
The great Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, joining us here on Big 12 Radio, breaking down his thoughts on Chris Kleiman. Says the Colin Klein piece is a done deal, but most importantly, didn't want to take away from the signing day piece and, of course, the ending of a career of a legendary coach in Chris Kleiman, who won 4 national championships in 5 years at at North Dakota State, and had a lot of success in following up the guy. Normally you want to be the guy that follows the guy, not, Chris Kleiman, like Ron Prince following Bill Snyder initially.
Right.
Ron Prince was so bad following Bill Snyder that Bill Snyder had to come back in his 70s.
And an interesting kind of side note about Chris Kleiman and his tenure, when he got hired by Kansas State back in 2019, the fans weren't crazy about it. I mean, there were some really big names on the market that K-State fans wanted the Cats and Gene Taylor to go after. And Gene said, hey, I've got a connection with a guy that, albeit at a different level, a lower level, if you will, does nothing but win in Chris Kleiman. And I remember when K-State announced that hire, again, it was a very mixed, kind of lukewarm reaction from K-State fans. But immediately, that first press conference, he won fans over. And winning 8 games his first year, and then even year 2 in the COVID year, when K-State was the youngest team in all of college football. I remember that from their game notes. They went 4-6 during the COVID year with a freshman quarterback and a freshman running back, kid by the name of Deuce Vaughn, who ended up being pretty dang good, as Chris Kleiman would say. His whole motto was win the dang day, and they were making T-shirts, and K-State really leaned into that. And I'm so glad that Gene Taylor gave him his moment. I know this didn't go the way K-State would have liked, but signing day, it's a players' event, and then to have Chris Kleiman there giving a statement and making it all about him before we move forward to Colin Klein, who will be the next coach at K-State at the age of 36. And very encouraging what Tim said about what he's heard about how the players are responding and reacting. It sounds like in this roster turnover era, K-State made the best move possible to keep their core group of guys, and then we'll see what Colin Klein can do on the recruiting trail.
That's James Westlake. I am Ari Tepkid. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. On the way next, Brent Brennan, the head football coach at Arizona, joins us next. This is Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. presented by Modelo. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Tepkin. Great to have you with us today and every day here on your home for the Big 12. Tune in and Big 12 Studios. A reminder that you can always check out where you can stream us at Big12Studios.com, Roku, Tubi, Amazon Prime Video, YouTube, and plenty of other platforms. Check out Big12Studios.com to find all of the platforms in which you can get us. Big 12 Radio is brought to you by the Full-Time Fan by Modelo. And the Modelos will be flowing on Saturday, even for an 11 a.m. Central start at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, for a game that is sold out now via Texas Tech and BYU. You can still obviously get tickets in the secondary market. Just go to SeatGeek or download the SeatGeek app. We'll be joined here momentarily by Arizona football coach Brent Brennan, whose Arizona Wildcats just put together a fantastic recruiting class as part of signing day. Where did they end up, James? You told me this already, but 36th in the country. And a reminder, last year there were two in the top
35, and I think we had 3 in the top 40, and this year the league has 8 teams in the top 40, including Arizona, who put together a top 5 class, according to 24/7's composite rankings in the Big 12.
With that in mind, let's talk with Brent Brennan, the head football coach of the Arizona Wildcats, who got scorching hot at the end of the season, including their win over Arizona State, the Territorial Cup. Morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing fantastic. What a end of the season for you guys, winning 5 straight to close it out, and then a top 39 recruiting class, 36th, with 21 commitments, including 6 4-stars. But let's start with the Territorial Cup and the 5 straight wins to end the season. I think you were 2-3 in Big 12 play to start. What changed that allowed you to go on that run to win 5 straight?
You know, I think we felt all season like we had a good football team, and we felt like we went on the road to Iowa State and they beat us fair and square. But those other 2 losses, like those were hard-fought deals. Double overtime versus BYU, who's obviously playing in the championship game this weekend, and then we lost on the last play of the game at Houston, which was also a good football team. So I think we were confident we had a good football team, and to the credit of our coaching staff and our players, everybody just kept coming to work every day, kept grinding through it and attacking the process, and the results were, or the outcomes were good because of that process.
Coach, man, we are huge fans of what you're doing in Tucson. You're one of the good guys. Like, you were one of the first coaches that came on the newly launched Big 12 Radio about 1.5 years ago here on TuneIn, and now on video with Big 12 Studios, and we are just so happy for you and all your success. Is there a little bit of a different vibe around Tucson, year 2 for you and during this run? Because last year, I know things didn't go how you had planned, but you got hired so late in the process. We're like, man, just wait and let's see what he can do next year, and you guys have had a major breakthrough.
No, thanks for that. You know, I think we just stuck to it, man. Like, I just think we were not easily discouraged, and excuse me, I've been coaching a long time, and I know how this thing goes. I've been in lots of fights, and so I was good for it. You know, I know 2024 didn't go the way I wanted to go. Our fans anybody wanted it to go, but we were just focused on, improving every day. We're really fortunate to put a really good staff around these players, just great coaches, great people. We've got really good support from Desiree Reed-Francois, our athletics director, and our new president. And so, we're making progress here, and I feel great about it. I love the way the season ended. Beating a team up north was fantastic. Putting together a good recruiting class. I just think we have a ton of momentum, and we're letting it rip, man.
Yeah, I mean, watching your team this year, I mean, it's so obvious that, the differences between 24 and 25, you could run the football and play defense, which were 2 things that were very difficult for the 2024 team. And I love the 25 defense from the standpoint of turning teams over, being aggressive. The secondary was really good at being aggressive and creating turnovers. How big of a hire was Danny Gonzalez, and when did you know that this thing defensively could be turned around as quickly as it was?
I had coached against Danny for lots of years, and back in the Mountain West, and I had known what a great football coach he was. And so it was interesting because I think when I made the move with him a year ago, people were kind of raising their eyebrows, but I had confidence in it. You know what I mean? And so, I believe in Danny, and obviously we kicked a lot of ass this year on defense, and props to him. Props to that guy, all those coaches on that side of the ball and those players that believed they could. I think that's one of those things is, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. And
Yep.
and those guys let it rip, and they were fun to watch.
Well, Coach, I lose sleep at night when I know that I have to give my co-host Ari props, but I have to do it. He said it, man, like a month ago that Noah Fifita should be the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and your case for your quarterback.
Well, and so to be fair, full context here, we had this argument before the Cincinnati game, and at that point, Sorsby was the favorite in that conversation. I said Fifita, and then, of course, he went and proved it on the field in that game at Cincinnati.
We're building Ari a trophy outside the studio for those comments.
I had it first.
A statue, I should say.
Well, I think I'm with Ari because I know at the Big 12 Media Day, I said by December, everybody in the country is going to be talking about Noah Fifita. Like, that was my quote. I said it because I believed in that kid. He is special in every way. And so none of the accolades or the love that he's getting or the way he played is a surprise to me or anybody in this building. I think when you combine him with Coach Daggy and what Coach Daggy's relationship with Noah has been, it's been magic. And like just coming to work with him every day, being around him every day. We just signed his little brother yesterday, so now we're adding a little more Fifita to the family, which I love.
Awesome.
But Noah is special, and you don't have to spend much time with him to get a feel for just what a unique young man he is. And on the football field, he's funny because he's not super emotional. He's almost like, he's like the Terminator, just like no emotion, just steady all the time. And but to see him just make the plays he makes, throwing the football, his poise in the pocket, his command of our offense, really, really special.
I want to give you some time to talk about the recruiting class you signed yesterday, which again ranks 36 in the 24/7 Sports Composite, which is incredible. It's a good mix, and I would say, from a geography standpoint, fits well into the mold of what Arizona fans are probably used to in terms of the lifeblood of California, Arizona, but then a good mix of Texas. You're really dipping, getting into the Texas side of things. Zaire Heiler, the kid from Denton Ryan, that's a big-time program out here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Denton. Another kid from El Paso, which is a little bit closer to Tucson. So just give us a sense here of this class you've signed, especially highlighted by these 6 4-star kids.
No, we're really excited about this group, and it's funny because, we were just talking about Noah Fifita, but his brother Dash was the co-defensive player of the year in the Trinity League in California. I mean, there's not a better high school football league in the country than that one. You know what I mean? So, we've got a lot of, we're excited about all these kids. Taking the player of the year out of Nevada, with Prince out of Bishop Gorman. And then obviously dipping into Texas has been critical for us. But we feel like we added some speed at wideout. We added some skill. And then O&D line was, just a huge point of emphasis for us. And I think Coach Salavea did a great job bringing some big-time D-line into this class. And then also we feel great about the offensive line players that are coming. And the one sleeper of the group, I'm telling you, is this tailback from Fresno. Like this kid, Brandon Smith, now is something. And he's a two-way player. He's playing in the NorCal Championship this Friday, but he's unbelievable. Like he's a 10,500 meter kid.
Wow.
He can go. On defense, he'll knock your ass off. Like he is fun. So there's a lot of really good stuff in this thing. We're fired up, man.
Yeah, 6 foot, 185 pounds. That's not bad for a 18-year-old that's going to be a freshman next year. And then what I need to know is Dash Fifita, 5'10", 185-pound linebacker. So there's Hank Bachmeyer, and then there's Bear. So, how do the parents who name one kid Noah then have Dash? I feel like Noah got the short end of the stick in terms of names here.
Well, shoot, I'll tell you this. If you spend any time with the Fifita family, Winona, the mom, is just the champion of all champions. And then Les is kind of the coach. Les is kind of the tough guy, always on the kids, coaching them. But Dash is, when you watch him play, he is a Tasmanian devil, man. He makes every play on the field. When you're watching him play, you're like that's when we offered him a year ago. We were just like, how can we not offer this kid just watching his games? We're like, he makes every play on the field. And so it's super fun for us to have him coming. And I don't know how they got Dash and Noah, but they are great people, I'll tell you that. They are wonderful.
That's awesome. Talking with Arizona head football coach Brent Brennan here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. Coach, I go back to your game against BYU. Okay, you lose that game in double overtime. My point in saying that is that could be you next year, the position BYU's in this year, with an 11-1 record, getting ready to play for a Big 12 championship game, and still outside looking in when it comes to the college football playoff rankings. Like, we look at their resume and can't imagine a better at-large resume for a one-loss team that is getting snubbed. I'm just curious, as somebody who played them and who represents Arizona and is a voice in the Big 12, your thoughts on what the college football playoff picture looks like.
I think if you're a one-loss team in this conference, you should get in. I mean, I don't know how else. That's the most simple I can say it. If you play in this and really any Power 4 conference, if you're a one-loss team in a Power 4 conference, you should be in that thing because the conference is too tough. Everyone is super good. Week in and week out, you have to show up and just absolutely slug it out. And so to me, I'm just like, for them, I think they should get in.
What would be your game plan to stop Texas Tech? Because there's been very few teams that have been able to do it this year.
You know what's funny is that I haven't seen them on film very much. We haven't had a ton of crossover. So,
Yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, I think the biggest thing would be to, stop them from paying all them good players all that money. You know what I mean? No, Coach McGuire is a great coach and a great dude. I know that. Like, he's an awesome football coach, and he's done a great job putting those pieces together. So I give them a ton of credit. Obviously, they got some special players on that team, quarterback and the linebacker, and just like they've done a great job putting that thing together. So, I got all the respect in the world for them. I'm excited to watch that game. I love Kalani. Kalani and I worked together at Oregon State a decade ago, and lived in the same neighborhood. So we've been longtime friends, and so I'm excited to see that game. I think it's going to be a great game.
We're excited to see where you end up for your bowl game and watching Arizona in a really nice bowl. When will you find out what bowl you guys are headed to and get the invite? Is that this upcoming Sunday?
Yeah, that's the way I know it to be is Sunday. But we're fired up, man. I think it's a cool thing. This has been a great year for us, and all of us are still a little bit pissed off because we felt like we let a couple get away. You know what I mean? We felt like we, credit to BYU and Houston, they made the plays that day when we didn't make enough. But so we're excited to play this thing, and wherever we go and whoever we play, we'll be ready for it. We can't wait.
Can't wait to see it. Brent Brennan, the head football coach of Arizona. Appreciate your time very much, Coach. Be well, and we can't wait to see your bowl game. Take care.
Appreciate it. Bear down.
There you go. Brent Brennan joining us here on Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, talking about the recruiting class, which includes Dash Fafita, Noah's brother, who he's described as a Tasmanian devil, a 3-star. But their class is loaded with 4 stars, including R.J. Mosley, a wide receiver out of Pittsburgh, California, 6'4", 185 pounds, as a 18-year-old.
Yeah, they had a really nice, really well-rounded class. Like he said that, they emphasized the trenches, the line of scrimmage, had to get better on the offensive and defensive lines. But then to your point, they add a splash with a 4-star receiver. They also have a 4-star top 300 quarterback coming in, Oscar Rios, who's from California, is the number 14 rated quarterback in the country. He's probably QB1 of the future after Noah Fafita departs after next season. And then also, Coach Brennan noted, hey, we let a couple slip away. And, man, he's right. 2 of their 3 losses were by 1 score or less, one of them to BYU in double overtime, lost at Houston on a walk-off last-second field goal. Like, this team was right there to being where BYU is this season with an 11-1 record because their wins this season, the KU win was close. The Cincinnati win the final score was closer than really that game was. They controlled that game and led from start to finish. And then they beat Arizona State 23-7. Like, they didn't have a ton of close games compared to everybody else. They looked really dominant in their wins and had a couple of close losses, which is really exciting for them for next year.
Yeah, the other guy I'm really excited about is Zaire Heiler from Denton Ryan High School, a powerhouse in Denton, Texas, just north of the Dallas area where North Texas is. 6'4", 180-pound corner.
Which is, like, I don't know how Arizona grades defensive backs, but it feels like if you're not 6'4", you're not playing at Arizona.
Yeah,
they always have these long, rangy defensive backs.
Well, that's Utah. That's Utah's calling card too.
Yep.
So I mean, it's a good approach to have, right? You can if you have Like, they sign a receiver who's 6'4", 185. Now you got a corner at 6'4", 180 who can match with him at the line of scrimmage, as opposed to some of these other corners we've seen in the past that are maybe 5'8", 5'9", 5'10". 6'4", 180 that's a monster of a man right there.
And that is a tremendous story and a tremendous job by Arizona scouting this kid and getting in on him early because he wasn't always a 4-star. In fact, you look at his offer list outside of Arizona, it's Oregon State, Bowling Green, Louisiana Tech, Colorado State, Miami, Ohio, Montana State, North Dakota, and this is a 4-star recruit that a lot of schools made a late push for, but Arizona was on him from the get-go when he was a 2 and a 3-star and going through that growth spurt, and now they land a big-time, highly touted prospect.
That's James Wesley. I am Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. On the way next, let's get into the Big 12 championship game, plus a little bit, we'll dip our toe in the water, some updates on Big 12 hoops. It's all coming up next. This is Big 12 Today, powered by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Levitt has a man.
Here on your home for the Big 12. Big 12 today with James Westlake, I am Ari Tepkin. Great conversation there with Arizona football coach Brent Brennan. If you missed it, it's available on your podcast app. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Apple Podcasts. It will be available. I have our producer, Will, just gave me the weirdest look. Like, it's not up yet. It will be available.
Soon.
I love that. I love Will's energy. This is not fill-in producer energy. This is I am the man running this show energy from Will Connerly, who's been with us all week. When was your first day? Was it late last week that you joined us?
A couple weeks ago, shadowed. Thursday, Friday, I think the week before.
That's right.
Late last week, then Monday had a show. Then this week, getting after it with
And
Will.
how many nuclear codes do you have on that computer? Because it is a beast.
Nuclear codes? I don't know.
Straight out of 2007. I love it. That
Yeah.
thing's got to weigh at least 30 pounds, but I'm here for it.
Hey, it's running the show.
It is. It's doing everything we need it to do.
And more. At some point, Will put up the Brent Brennan interview. I was just really looking to promote the podcasts, Will. That's all I was looking to do. Check out our podcast page, whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Just search Big 12 Radio. And at some point, the Brent Brennan interview will magically appear up there. All right. We have a Big 12 championship game in a few days. You know, it's funny. Normally during the football season, we spend the whole week kind of talking about the games. And I feel like this week's gone by. It's like it's Thursday. We haven't even really talked about the game yet at all. And, I mean, there's been so much. And, like, that's part of the absurdity of the calendar this time of year with signing day and basketball. And, you know, the Final Four of soccer is this weekend with TCU in it. And the NCAA tournament starts for volleyball this weekend. So there's a lot going on. But when I look at this game, BYU Texas Tech, 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern time. You can catch the pregame show with us on the field. Kalani Sitake, Joey McGuire will both be with us. 9 to 11 Central on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. Like, the first thing that stands out from the last time these two teams played to now is, well, there's probably three things. One, BYU cannot turn the ball over 3 times and expect to win. BYU cannot play as poorly on special teams. And BYU cannot be as ineffective running the football. Now, the biggest difference in terms of their run game is L.J. Martin. L.J. Martin was just returning from injury in that game. In fact, we didn't even know in the lead up to that game if he was going to be available.
Yep.
He had 10 carries for 35 yards in that game. Mm-hmm. Zero impact. In the last 3 games, basically since that Texas Tech loss, he's rushed for 405 yards and 3 touchdowns, including the 95-3 scores against UCF. So he's back in full capacity. And that, to me, in terms of, like, what's the biggest difference heading into this game for BYU, it's L.J. Martin and his health. And then, like, if you're BYU and you watch the film from the Tech game, you just cannot turn the ball over 3 times. And you cannot be as bad as on special teams as you were. You have no shot, regardless of anything else. L.J. Martin can run for 160 and 3 touchdowns. And if you have 3 turnovers and play as poorly as you do on special teams, you probably still lose.
Yep. Yeah, very well said. Completely agree. This game comes down to one side of the ball, if you will, for me, and it's BYU's offense. Because we know what we're going to get from Texas Tech's defense. It is elite. Now, Texas Tech offensively in that first matchup, they went 6 for 7 in the red zone, but Ari, they had to settle for 5 field goals. So you look at the final score and you think, oh, man, that's a blowout. And sure, it was. But Texas Tech was not the dynamic offense that we've seen against other teams. BYU's defense was still really good in that game. They had 4 sacks in that game. They had 6 tackles for loss in that game. Meanwhile, Texas Tech's defense had just 1 sack and 4 TFLs. But to your point, BYU's offense was anemic. L.J. Martin had a long of 12, which means his other 9 carries, he averaged about 2 yards per rush. They also had 2 fumbles of their 3 turnovers in that game. Bear Bachmeier threw the ball more times than Baron Morton, which dictated the tempo of that game. The BYU quarterback passing for more attempts than the Texas Tech quarterback. I think this time around, having a healthy L.J. Martin, having that first matchup, a lot of times when the first game is a blowout, the second game is usually really close, or the other team even wins, because you're able to take the tape and everything that you learned from that first game and kind of flip the script. And we know what we're going to get from Texas Tech. They are going to be elite. They're going to be really good on Saturday because that's their football team in a nutshell. But I think BYU didn't play their best, and they're going to be better on Saturday, which is why I think that this line is too big, and I think it's going to be a really, really good football game.
Here's what Kalani Sitake, BYU's head football coach, had to say about getting a second crack at Texas Tech.
About the specific matchup, you've been public about that if you got the opportunity again to face Texas Tech, you feel confident your team would play better. Why is it that you feel so confident now that you have the matchup again with Texas Tech?
Well, that was actually a really good experience for us. I mean, they're a great team, and we didn't play our best, but they had something to do with it. You know what I mean? And you always want a second chance at things especially when you didn't feel like you were able to show your best self. So this does it. I mean, we were on the road against them, and now it's a neutral site in Arlington, and I think we're going to have great representation there. So just looking forward to the matchup. I said it before too. Like Texas Tech knew that we're going to see them in a few weeks. They said it to us post game.
How about that? Joey McGuire told Kalani Sitake we'll see you again in a few weeks. And yeah, I mean, look, we'll have Greg Wrubell on in the final hour of the show in about 30 minutes from now, the voice of BYU. But I think Mitch Harper yesterday said it, who covers BYU for KSL Sports, and it was like it kind of felt like they played scared. Like they went out there thinking we're going to lose, which is interesting because in many ways, when you think about the major brands in the Big 12 previously, like Texas and OU, in many ways they won games based on that. Yeah. You'd show up and just be overwhelmed by that part of it and lose. And so it's good that Texas Tech has developed that aura. But you heard Kalani say it there. This is a neutral site. Now it will be more pro Tech than BYU, but it's going to be full. It's sold out. It's going to be 90,000, 100,000 plus, depending on what standing room only looks like. So, I mean, it's going to be an incredible environment that's going to be totally different than what it was at Jones AT&T Stadium in Lubbock.
Yeah, and can BYU hang around early and kind of get some of those this moment is so big jitters out of the way? I think we'll say a lot on Saturday. You know, Texas Tech defensively kept everything in front of them underneath. They shut down L.J. Martin in that first matchup. And BYU, their average third down distance was 7.1 yards to go. The short passing game for BYU, 5 yards or less, Per Bachmeier completed all 14 of his throws, 14 for 14 on those short throws. So Texas Tech let those go, and then the deep passing, Bachmeier was just 2 for 10 on throws over 15 yards. But just to magnify that BYU defensively was also pretty good in that game, they held Texas Tech to 38% on third downs. Texas Tech's average third down distance was 7.8 yards, so even worse than BYU. But they had 10 more. They had 10 explosive plays, and BYU only had 4. So it was the explosives. It was the bend but don't break defense from Texas Tech, which again I think the game plan is going to be similar than that first matchup on Saturday. It just comes down for me: can BYU be good enough in the trenches to spring L.J. Martin for, instead of a 1 or a 2 yard run, can he get 4 to 6 yards from time to time to keep them ahead of? That's so important for BYU, staying ahead of schedule when it comes to the chains and generating and sustaining drives. And then with Texas Tech and their red zone struggles, kicking field goals against that Texas Tech defense is not a bad thing. You can hang around in a game just by knocking through field goals because Texas Tech has struggled so much offensively in the red zone.
And there's an important dynamic for BYU's offense of you kind of are what you are at this point, and you're not going to change who you are. But I do think that there's probably some areas from an offensive perspective that they could be a little bit different. And that's a lot of what we talked about this week is what you just mentioned, kind of some of the get the ball out quick, quick strikes, RPOs, stay out of the sticks, but keep the Tech defense off balance, throwing in situations where historically you've run it.
Yep.
First down, second down. Running in historic situations where you've thrown it. Maybe a third and medium where you get a good matchup and you go sort of soft in the box and kind of don't invite Tech to indulge more into the box. I think the cat and mouse game of the play calling will be huge. And again, BYU just has to change offensively what they did. Now look, Bear Bachmeier is better. LJ Martin is better. But so is Barrett Morton. I mean, Morton is as healthy as he's been all year too. So you can't also rely on Texas Tech to kick as many field goals as they did in that game because you expect their offense to be better too.
And I also think, the fact that these teams played, I know that on the schedule it was 3 games ago. But when they kick off on Saturday, it will be a full month since they last saw each other. Think about the improvement that teams make from September 1st to October 1st, from October 1st to November 1st. That's a long time. There's a lot of room for improvement on both sides. Now, the other interesting kind of mental piece for me is, what if this game is close? How will Texas Tech respond? Because they haven't really been in close games this season. I know it was close at the half against Utah. Kansas State gave them a little bit of a scare in Manhattan, but their only close game was at Arizona State, and they lost that game 26-22. And Arizona State had a late game touchdown to Jordan Tyson, who made a big play and won that football game. Outside of that, they've just been destroying people. So if this game is a one-score game or a single-digit deficit or whatever the case may be, at halftime, how does Texas Tech respond is a big question that I have and can't wait to see.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Greg Wrubell joins us in 20 minutes from now to talk about this game. On the way next, though, let's get it on. This is Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo here on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. John Pardee, who you can get tickets to the Party Pit, will be the halftime performance for the Big 12 Championship game on Saturday, which is sold out. Go to SeatGeek or the SeatGeek app to still get your tickets on the secondary market. But, John Pardee hopefully going to join us either on tomorrow's show or live on Saturday from the Big 12 Championship game. Should be a lot of fun. Cannot wait to hear John Pardee along with the BYU and Texas Tech school marching bands. Was really fun last year, and it's going to be even cooler this year, especially with a huge star like John Pardee. All right. This is a new segment. It's a great way for us to argue different points of view. It's a segment called Let's Get It On.
BYU.
Will, I can't see real well. Is that Reese Davis over there? It grew a little bit, but not by much when it got to 4 teams. And with 12 teams, it's like, okay, there's one spot for a group of 5, but the opportunity here for a second group of 5 team is huge. Peterson right now because there's no game film of Darren Peterson playing in college than there is of Debanza.
There's no game film? Have you seen his highlight reel from high school on YouTube? Did you not see him against Green Bay in the opener? Did you not see him in the second half against North Carolina when he was the only option Kansas had offensively? Now, yes, he's been on the bench so much this season that he's building a timeshare, but the games that he's been on the floor in, baller status. 50% from three, 60% from the floor, 70% from the foul line. That's a 60, 50, 70 line for a guy that's averaging over 20 points. But I'm here for it. In fact, I love John Gruden's idea to fix the college football playoff. His proposal is to have 10 teams that aren't in Power 4 conference championship games also play a game for a spot in the college football playoff, which would give us Oregon and James Madison, Ole Miss and Tulane, Texas A&M and Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Texas, Notre Dame and Miami. Have those teams play head-to-head as essentially the play-in games of the college football playoff. We have play-in games in college basketball for the NCAA tournament. We're going to have 1 billion play-in games this year with 16 teams in that play-in round. Why can't we do that in college football? I'm here for it, Diego Pavia. Let's do it. 13th game.
I mean, yeah, why not? Why not have cats walking dogs? Where does this end? Where does it end?
It never ends.
Should we do a 14th game too?
Yeah.
Should we do a 15th? Just keep moving the goalposts.
Yep.
Right, Diego Pavia? I mean, if there is
it.
Let's not just throw around the word great that much, okay?
Did I say great twice there? I thought it was pretty great.
Let's just say good and allow great to be great.
I thought it was exceptional, Will.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. That's Let's Get It On. A little bit too much of the Mills Lane, I'm not going to lie. It's Big 12 Radio presented by Modelo. Other one next, Greg Wrubell, voice of the BYU Cougs, joins us. This is Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio.
They're
Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Tepkin. So please be joined right now by Greg Wrubell, the voice of BYU, as BYU gears up for a Big 12 championship appearance against Texas Tech on Saturday at AT&T Stadium. And, I mean, it's pretty remarkable, Greg, to consider that when this season started, or right even before the season started, to think that BYU would end up here. Right? We knew this team would be good, but just the uncertainty at quarterback, it's just wild to think how crazy of a season it's been, considering, again, that this team lost its starting quarterback from last year right before the season started.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, you could argue that BYU is still, kind of paying the price for that preseason ranking. When Jake Retzloff left, everyone just thought, well, there goes BYU, and they dropped BYU out of a potential top 25. They would have been probably 13-14 to start the season. They had so much room to make up, and I think there is an actual, there's data that shows that the teams that were ranked are kind of more or less where you'd expect them to be at this point, and unranked BYU had too much room to have to move to get to a position where they could argue for anything higher at this point. So I think there was some bias in rankings that BYU took a long time to overcover, and there's data on this too. BYU is perennially, the most underranked team in the country. They most often end up in the top 25 when they didn't start in the top 25. And so for BYU, I think BYU deserves actually extra credit for losing Jake Retzloff and doing what they've done. To take a true freshman quarterback and get an 11-1 season in a power conference. The Sean Alexander list for Freshman of the Year award came out last night, and Bear's not on that. Bear Bachmeier is a true freshman. Some of these other guys already had multiple college games on their resume. We're talking about a kid that was in high school last year, steps in at a P4 level, helps his team to an 11-1 season with 3,000 yards of total. I mean, Bear's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
He should be a much bigger story. BYU should be a much bigger story. And that BYU story has been tamped down and tamped down and tamped down, and they are dismissed. And unfortunately, it all comes down to 26-0. And when I say that, that was the score of the Texas Tech BYU game in the fourth quarter. And I think the committee watched that game, and on that day in early November, they saw 26-0 and said, okay, that's BYU. And they haven't considered anything else before or since. It's unfair. It's not right. The data doesn't back them up. It was a bad day against a really good team. All right, we're talking about the team, the committee voted Texas Tech number 4. Okay, that's an elite football team on its home field. Their smallest victory margin all year was the BYU game. Their only game with under 30 points all year was the BYU game. Their fewest yards in a win all year was the BYU game. BYU got beat, all right, and 26-0 was not great. Finished 29-7. But let's remember that was a tough test on a team's home field, an elite football team. It's funny, I go back and I think about the first 2 series Texas Tech had in that game. 7 plays, minus 29 yards. The BYU defense came to play. All right? Texas Tech did nothing in its first 2 series. And BYU's first 2 chances for special teams plays were a shank punt and a fumbled punt return. Those 2 plays helped flip things pretty early, got Texas Tech rolling, and we saw what happened. But that said, it's 13-0 at halftime. It's a ball game. Had the offense and the special teams had any kind of game like the defense had that day, I think we're talking about a different deal. Point being, the committee's using that one data point, that one game, that one bad showing by the offense and special teams to say that's a football team, and that's not the football team. There's 12 games to go on. There are ranked wins, there are road wins, there are comeback wins. There's a great freshman story. There's an awesome head coach. There's a lot to love about BYU, and for some reason, everybody's flipped the switch to off on BYU in the committee and the national media.
And just real quickly, a very close comp would be last year's Indiana team that lost one game to
got smoked
38-15. It's almost the exact same resume, except BYU probably has a better win. There was no Utah win on Indiana's schedule last year.
It's a 23-point loss. It's a 22-point loss. And again, it's to a team you say is elite.
Right.
All right. What's the standard we're setting here? SMU last year. All right. They went to their title game, lost it, ended up 11-2. By the way, their other loss that year besides Clemson was BYU.
Yeah.
BYU never got credit for the SMU win last year. So SMU went in, lost their title game, ended up joining Clemson in the college football playoff. The only difference being Clemson, I think, was an 8 going in, and BYU's an 11. Those 3 spots make all the difference. But unfortunately for BYU, the 3 spots this year are occupied by 2 lost teams, and BYU's a 1-loss team. Just even in the most simple manner of observation, you can't put 3 2-loss teams in front of a 1-loss team that has played the schedule with the strength of record of BYU. There's just so much wrong with the rankings. But the committee will never admit they're wrong. They don't want to move anybody at this point. Yes, they bumped Alabama to give themselves a bit of a buffer, but they don't want to pull teams back by just going, oh, you know what? We really should have looked closer at BYU's resume. That's kind of our bad. They don't do that.
Completely agree. And BYU has a better win-loss record. They have a better strength of record. They have a better strength of schedule. They have more top 25 wins than all the other teams that have 2 losses. So of the 3 teams that you just noted there, like, what's your biggest beef? Who do you think BYU, no-brainer, should be in front of that somehow, some way is still ranked higher?
Notre Dame.
Yep.
I mean, you saw the conference's graphic last night, right? I mean, that's pretty plain to see where BYU should be in comparison to Notre Dame. Alabama has a loss so much worse than anything on BYU's resume. The Florida State game, by the way, Florida State lost to Stanford, who BYU smoked. We can pick holes in anybody in front of BYU and do it with some good data to back it up. There's no doubt about that. I just don't know what they're looking at besides the Texas Tech game. And I really do. But guys, I admit, I concede 26-0 was not a good look. If that game finishes, 27-20, 31-24, maybe we don't have this discussion. If that was a ball game through 4 quarters, the committee probably gives BYU a fairer shake at this point. It's just really unfortunate. And this is on BYU, right? This is on them. On that day, they were not right in all 3 phases of the game. Okay, and because of that, they're paying the price for it. They have to acknowledge it. They do acknowledge it. They weren't in the game when they needed to be. If they were in the game, I'd like to think the committee would have given BYU a fair shake, but it was so stark that day. It looked so bad that day that they, I think, made their decision. That's who we think BYU is. It was a weird day, guys. BYU has 22 takeaways on the year. They have multiple takeaways in 8 of their 11 games. They have at least 1 takeaway in 11 of 12 games. The one game where they don't get a takeaway, it's the Texas Tech game. They had 2 picks that they should have had, didn't get. It was a weird game that way. So they were -3 in the margin against one of the best turnover margin teams in the country. They were -18 yards in average starting field position. You can't win that game. Those 2 numbers alone, -3 in the margin and -18 in average starting field position, you're dead. And they were dead that day. But it was such an outlier. The areas in which they've been strong all year, they weren't strong that day. Give a lot of credit to Texas Tech. I mean, again, elite football team. You go through their stat rankings. Where are they weak? Nowhere. There was not a weakness on this Texas Tech team. And now BYU's being asked to beat this team or risk being on the outside looking in on the college football playoff. Even if they were to lose to Texas Tech, those are 2 losses to one of the best football teams in the country. And there's not enough left on the BYU resume to say that's a good football team. Clearly, I disagree. But the committee rules the day, and you see where BYU is at number 11. The equally unconscionable thing, guys, to me, is how the national media, ESPN notably, is just ignoring BYU to the extent where they will show 10, 12, and 13 on the screen and leave out 11.
Yep.
It's that blatant and that obvious. I don't get it.
So, Greg, let's say Saturday's close. Let's say it is a 27-20 game in the 4th quarter. If BYU doesn't win outright, let's say it's close and the style points are there for BYU and Alabama loses their conference championship game. Do you think that's enough to move the needle?
I will hope, beyond hope, that it is, right? And maybe the contrast will be good. Maybe the committee will go, maybe there's more to BYU than we thought. This looks better than we saw before. This Bachmeier kid's a player. This defense that is almost as good as Texas. They may have that feeling. That'd be my hope. The fact that you've got teams that won't be playing this weekend, that they can't make a point this weekend. BYU's got this. I mean, is there a more motivated team in America than BYU this weekend? There can't be, right? I mean, everything is on the line for BYU. They know. that everybody's against them at this point. It would certainly benefit the Big 12 that BYU gets 2 teams in, but Texas Tech's not lying down for anybody. They're playing for a bye. They're motivated too, but BYU's got all these motivational elements going for them. And I think something we should think about too, guys, is Texas Tech can go into this game saying, we do what we do. It was good enough to beat BYU 29-7 last time. It should be good enough to beat BYU again this time. We are who we are. We're healthy. Let's just go play Texas Tech football, and that should be enough. BYU goes into it going, we can't just do what we did last time. Something's got to change. Something's got to be better. Something's got to be different. And so I think that could help, too, from a tactical standpoint. BYU knowing it's got to make some adjustments. L.J. Martin's going to be healthier. That was his first game back off the Iowa State injury. He wasn't right that day. In fact, his first run was 12 yards. He took a pop at the end of that. I think he got dinged at the wrong place on his body after that 12-yard hit. And I don't think he was the same the rest of the way. He's much better now. I mean, LJ's had an amazing season. I mean, he's one of the best offensive players in the conference. He's better now than he was on that day. Bear Bachmeier conceded that was kind of his first rough day of the year, and he's been better since that day. I think there's a lot of reasons to think that BYU can show better, and it is weird that all these chances for early special teams plays they made mistakes on. A shank punt, a fumbled punt return, taking a kickoff out of the end zone, missing a field goal, all these things that would have kept you in the game went the other way when they hadn't been playing that way. And so I kind of want to say it's a mulligan, and sometimes your second swing's just better than that first swing. And that'll be the hope for BYU on Saturday.
Yeah, well said, Greg, and agree with everything you said there. I mean, it was very uncharacteristic. I mean, this is a very good team from a special teams perspective, and they were dreadful on special teams. And this is a very good team in terms of not turning the football over, and they were -3. Do you think they were played scared in that game?
I don't know. There's always that cliche about the game being too big, and I don't know. I do know that was a great home field advantage that day for Texas Tech. And Aaron Roderick, the offensive coordinator, told me straight up after, we made way too many pre-snap mistakes because of noise. He thought the noise did impact his team, and it was probably the best environment they'd played in to that point of the season. This isn't going to be a home game for Texas Tech. That's also a difference here. Granted, both teams had to deal with the wild wind, but that was a 20 to 30 mile per hour wind all day, and it just hurt BYU more than it hurt Texas Tech. Straight up, BYU didn't handle it as well as Texas Tech. This will not be a weather affected game. It will not be a crowd affected game. This is a sold out. By the way, how great is it sold out midweek? And this, the BYU crowd's going to show up. You guys know. I mean, you take BYU to Provo, you're still going to find a fan base that will follow the Cougars. And so the Cougars are going to draw really well from Texas and surrounding areas. And this is going to be a great football game environment. I'm so looking forward to getting back into the building on Saturday. It'll be my third game I think I've called there. I called the Oklahoma game in 2009 when the Sooners were ranked number 3 and BYU beat them to start the season. And then 2011, first year of independence, they played TCU in a neutral field game there as well. And so looking really forward to getting back in. It's going to be outstanding. I hope at the end of the day, we're talking about 2 Big 12 teams going to the playoff. Of course, that means that BYU's taking care of business, but what a challenge. I mean, Texas Tech is so good. You look for holes you can poke. You really can't. The only thing you can hope, if you're BYU, in terms of their weaknesses coming to the forefront, they get penalized a lot. Penalties can hurt you in big game situations. They weren't as penalized against BYU. I think they had 6 for 50, which you can get over. And the fact they do take a few TFLs and Morton's gotten sacked a few times. And I'd argue that BYU actually has a more efficient offense on the year than Texas Tech. But that Texas Tech defense, even though BYU's defense is really good, Texas's Tech defense is elite. Arguably the best in the country. And you can use a lot of data to back that up right now. So, again, good luck finding areas you can exploit because there are so few for the Red Raiders.
Yeah, well said. Greg, before we let you go, what's going on with BYU basketball?
Yeah, another win last night. Cal Baptist. People got Cal Baptist. They were 7-1. A net of 72 coming in. A Ken Palma 128. So pretty good basketball team. They won in Corvallis on the weekend. Led Colorado 23-9 early on Monday, and BYU just lit them up last night. I mean, it was never a ball game. So, and the Cougs are playing without Dawson Baker out for the year, without Nate Pickens out for the year. Dominique Diomande was sick and didn't play last night. So they were shorthanded and just took care of business against Cal Baptist. 30-ish point win. AJ DeBonsa was outstanding. 16 points in the first half. Keba Keita had double figures in the first half. There's a big three on this team: DeBonsa, Saunders, and Rob Wright. But Keba is really emerging as a force inside. Kennard Davis Jr., they call him Moo. Moo was big. All 5 BYU starters, double figures last night. This is a really good starting 5. Last year's team was kind of like they had 2 starting 5s. They had like a group of 5 off the bench and a group of 5 they would start. This year's team is different. The depth isn't there, but the quality of that starting 5 high right now, and that big 3 is as good as any top trio in the country. They scored 70 between the 3 of them in the win over Dayton on Friday, and they're averaging between 55 and 60 points a game anyway on a nightly basis. It's a fun team to watch, and AJ, I mean, he's a pro. I mean, he makes pro shots, and he did last night over and over again. Fun night at the Delta Center. It'll be good to get back at the Marriott Center. We've had only 2 home games all year. We're on a run of 6 consecutive neutral court games right now. The 6th of 6 is next Tuesday at Madison Square Garden against Clemson. Another big name, big game. Then we'll come back and get back into Provo. But sorry, long answer to your short question.
No.
Basketball's been fun. They're 7-1. It's been a blast.
Great stuff as always from Greg Wrubell, voice of BYU. And let me just add real quick. I appreciate your effort in trying to figure out why the committee has BYU ranked where they do. I think it's fairly simple. Notre Dame is going to get in every year where they have 2 losses or less. It's just, I mean, every conference has representation, and then Notre Dame has its own representation. It's a joke. It's egregious, but they're going to get in every year. So it's not, we could sit here and say it's because of the Texas Tech loss, but it's nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with Notre Dame, and it's sad, and it makes no sense, but that's what it is.
Yeah. And the committee chair, in the talking points about Notre Dame the other day, said, well, they've won 10 straight. Well, they should win 10 straight games. With that schedule, they should be winning the games they're winning. But they lost their first 2. Then they got into games they can win, and they've won them, right? BYU had a much tougher road to go. You're playing in a conference. Stakes are much higher on a week-to-week basis. Notre Dame did what it should do, quite frankly.
Yes.
But I also think BYU did what it should do. I mean, if you're a power conference team with 1 loss, and your only loss is to a top 4 team on the road, you're still a really good football team. And to hold you behind 3 2-loss teams is kind of egregious. And a lot will have to happen to change the committee's minds, because they don't look like the kind of group to admit that they're wrong.
Yeah, no, you're right. And look, I mean, I said it when they were 0-2. When Notre Dame was 0-2, I said they're going to run the table from here on out and get to the playoff. And it just sucks that it's coming right now at the expense of BYU. And this idea of like, well, they just have to go and win it. It's like, well, I mean, they've won 11 of the 12 games they played. They've won, 22 of 23, 25?
22 of 25, 22 and 3 in the last 2 years, yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's unbelievable.
You're not talking about some G6 scrub trying to make a case here to play with the big boys. They are one of the big boys.
Right.
And they're playing like it. And, I thought the credit would be there. It's so funny. In all the years of Mountain West and independence, the thought was, well, if they ever got into a power conference, they won't have to deal with this again. Well, they're dealing with this again.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, totally right. Greg, can't wait to see you in Dallas, in Arlington. Appreciate your time as always.
Yep.
And go get them on Saturday. Should be a fun game.
All right, James. Always a pleasure. Producer Will, appreciate you. And we'll do it again soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Take care, brother. Greg Wrubell joining us from Provo. He'll be out, of course, in Arlington calling the game, BYU and Texas Tech on Saturday. With James Wesley, I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Again, we'll be out at the Big 12 Championship. I say we, James won't, but I will, with Taylor McHargue. Joey McGuire is going to join us. Kalani Sataki is going to join us. Hope you will join us as well from 9 to 11 a.m. Central. And then, of course, you can catch kickoff and the game as a part of Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, all from AT&T Stadium on Saturday, and what will be a sold-out AT&T Stadium for BYU and Texas Tech. Should be a fun game.
Yeah, so have we come up with, we were discussing during the commercial break, what my punishment should be for missing the game. Super bummed that I'm not going to be there. But I feel like, do I write a handwritten apology letter to the entire conference, all 16 schools? I could get that in the mail. Or you could just make me wear jeans every day for a week. I mean, that would be basically torture. Could not do it.
Yeah, that would be great, actually. I was just trying to think through, maybe 700 push-ups in 10 minutes or something.
Okay.
Or
all right.
Maybe a fear factor sort of, you've got to eat a spider or maybe 3.
Heart rate challenge. Will he die on the air live?
Maybe have you drink 10 Modelo? No, that's probably not a good idea.
That one sounds pretty good, but the jeans for a week would maybe be the worst of them all.
Do you own a pair of jeans?
Yes, I do. Several.
Several?
I would say several pair.
Well, I mean, since you've self-appointed this punishment for yourself, might as well just do it. Might as well make it official. So what were you thinking?
Are those jeans?
No.
They look like jeans. They look like khaki-colored jeans. They are. That's what those are.
If they were khaki-colored jeans, they would then be khakis.
No, sir. No, sir. Not true. Man, I can't stop reading the Lane-Stein files. Lane Kiffin. Man, we know he's a nut.
I love how you just pivoted from your punishment as soon as the jeans thing came up. You brought up the jeans thing. Then I was like, good idea. Let's do it. And you're like, let's talk about Lane-Stein.
No, let's talk about Lane-Stein. So he would go to hot yoga. 3 times a week, he'd go to hot yoga. It's just him and all of these
okay, so explain what the
mid-20s
Lane-Stein files are.
So they are, it's trending on social media. All of these women are now sharing their DMs and Snapchats of Lane Kiffin sliding in. And his thing is he has this dog named Juice. And so he would try to get these women to come over to watch Juice. But he was also going to be there. And just some really funny stories from all these women that went to hot yoga where he would just show up periodically. How life feels when you don't have Lane Kiffin telling you he hates your playlist every morning in hot yoga. Another woman chimes in, and let's not forget the rolling of the golf balls trying to hit people during class.
That's amazing.
The most childish stuff. Gonna miss him pushing me over every time I was in a plank position, and he wasn't doing anything but annoying everybody else around him.
I just love the idea that he'd show up to hot yoga in order to troll everybody. It's amazing.
And he invited a reporter who wanted to do this big piece on him late in the season. And he said he would talk to the reporter, but the reporter had to come to hot yoga with him. And he did. I read the entire thing. He said Lane was just one of the gals.
It's amazing. I mean, the best part of these is the pickup lines, which, I get it. Some of these very rich, good-looking, successful people don't really have to do anything in order to pick up girls. That is insanely bad. You're just DMing and basically saying, come watch my dog.
Yes.
I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
What? I'd love for just any other guy that doesn't have as much money, isn't as famous, or, I guess good-looking as Lane, try to pull that.
Going to be in Gainesville tonight. Want to come over and watch Juice? What?
What? What are we watching him do? Yes, absolutely. Let me jump on that. That pickup line ever work for you in college? I got a dog in my house. Want to come over and watch him?
He writes like a 13-year-old girl, which is amazing.
Is this thing on?
Still using the letter U for you and all the things that the cool kids do. It's pretty amazing stuff.
All right, we've got a great Friday show packed for you tomorrow. We believe James will be there. James Westling, Ari Tepkin, Big 12 Radio presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. But for now, we're out. Peace.